Hey guys, Lord here, back again with another review, and today we'll be taking a look at the Hasbro Marvel Legends Walmart exclusive Spider-Man Retro Series Animated Spider-Man. Now before we get into the meat and taters of this review, moving good old Spidey out of the way here, let's first take a look-see at both the front. Tilt it back so you can see it a little better. Nice picture of Spidey off to the side there. And the back of the packaging. But as nice as this retro card is, you guys know what we do with packaging around here. So long, sayonara, have a nice day, sir. Bringing Spider-Man back in here. Centering him as best as I can. As far as his accessories go, he comes with a pair of thwip hands, as well as a pair of wall-crawling hands, or turn your head and cough hands. Oh yeah! You guys knew that was coming. You saw it from a mile away. And then he also comes with two web splats. This one is a long one. This one is a little bit shorter, about half the size. These are okay. I'm not the biggest fan of these, but if you have a bunch of thugs lying on the ground, you can cover them with these and whatnot. Or if you have some sticky tack or something, you can have him tacked to the wall and make it look like he shot the wall with one of his webs. So pretty cool nonetheless. But taking a closer look at this animated Spider-Man, kind of a grail piece for me, even though it just came out. I thought I wasn't going to get this guy, excuse me, unless they re-released him in the VHS line, which there is a symbiote costume Spider-Man in that line with a Carnage, which that never happened in the animated series, and I almost think that Spider-Man is on a different body than this guy. This is on the 60th anniversary Spider-Man body, which is the best Spider-Man body I think we have. Although, when I think of animated Spider-Man, like the 90s animated series Spider-Man, he's pretty jacked. I would almost like to see this version of Spider-Man on something like a Bucky cap or something, because he was pretty buff in that show. Like, Peter Parker definitely worked out and was built like a truck. So, if you don't think he is, just watch the show. He's pretty broad-shouldered and broad-chested and very exaggerated proportions compared to this. This is a good Spider-Man buck, but as far as the 90s animated series, I think he could have been a little bit thicker with two C's. But that said, I'm glad they stuck him on this body because I do really like this body. So I will let that slide. That's not a knock against this figure. It's just something I would like to see at some point. That said, he has the cell shading, particularly on the light blue parts of his suit. He's got it on the insides of his arms here, on the outsides of his legs, on the sides of his torso, maybe a little bit on the back. Not a whole lot on the red that I've noticed, but very well done as far as cell shading goes. I'm not the biggest fan of it, but when it's done well, I'm okay with it. The Venom I thought was done pretty well with the orange and blue cell shading on that figure, and this guy follows suit, looking really nice. And I think the Carnage and the symbiote Spidey look nice as well. So I think they've learned from the X-Men VHS line to do the cell shading to not look like crap. So I think we have a pretty strong year of animated series figures ahead of us. That said, articulation on this guy, he can look up that far, he can look down that far. He's got a little bit of play on that ball pig, some lollipop syndrome. If you could Dremel that out and sit this head a little bit lower, I think you would have a little bit better silhouette. That said, the head does pop off quite easily. So it would have been nice to get a Peter Parker head with this figure, but I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see that in the... darn, that was tough to get on there. In the VHS line next year. That said, he does have butterfly joints that do move forward and back. He didn't have as much mold degradation on his that the 60th anniversary Spider-Man had, so that's nice. His shoulders can go out to the side pretty far, actually. Be careful, though. You don't want to rub the web pattern off like I might have already. I don't know. I've been messing with this guy a lot. You can rotate his shoulders 360 as well. He's got a bicep swivel. Now, this one on mine, if you guys watched my Ulick video the other day, you know that I heated up his biceps and filed a little bit of mold degradation off. This guy, I had to shave like half the notch on the peg off to get it to stop sounding like it was going to shear off. Like, it was a squeaky, creaky mess before. You can barely hear it now. It's got a little tiny bit left, but not enough for me to go in there with the nail file and file any more down. So I don't know about you guys, but I don't like my figures sound like they're gonna break. So, you know, that's just me. If you're okay with that, then fine. It's probably fine, but that's a very thin peg in there too, so be careful with that. Didn't have that problem on the 60th Spider-Man, so I'm not sure why this guy had that problem. It's got the same shoulders. I'm just guessing it's something to do with my bicep over here, just not wanting to abide by my rules, because I didn't have to do a quarter of that much work on this side. I filed a little bit off the bottom, a little bit off the side, and it works fine. This is pretty stock on this side. This side, like half that peg is gone, just about, just to get it this way, and it's still tight. It's not loose, so very strange. That said, he does have a double elbow. Gets you about that far. Maybe a little more if I push that up. Yeah, there you go. And also, one thing to note, before I forget, no peg holes for the wings. I thought he had the peg holes. So that's nice. They were able to fill out the peg holes on him, but not on the Venom, which was a PulseCon exclusive. I got questions. I guess this was easier, though, because it's an arm and not a torso, but still, they shelled out the money for that. Whatever. He does have the hinge swivel wrists. All the hands have the same hinges. Should be worth noting, too, first and foremost, pretty easy to pop out. But it should be worth noting, too, that if you do have that 60th Spider-Man, I think the Reds match. So you could swap this head onto that body if you wanted to, or the grip hands onto this body. So that would be pretty cool to see. That said, my head, I didn't mention this, it's got a pretty big seam line going across the top here. I'm not a fan of that, but I don't feel like touching up that web pattern. So it is what it is. I'm sure they're not all like that. Maybe they are, but yeah, he's got a big gnarly seam line going across his head there. But I neglected to mention they only had one of these too, by the way. So the fact that I was able to fix the arm is kind of a good thing, because yeah, you can't exactly replace this dude. That said, he's got a diaphragm joint that moves back, moves forward a little bit. I think they need to get more crunch out of this, because the crunch on this is a joke. I don't know why it doesn't move forward more than it does. Must be something in the way there. It does rotate as well, and it has a tilt side to side. And he does have an ab crunch that moves forward and back pretty well. His hips kick out to the side, back down, forward and back. He's got a thigh cut, which, unlike the Black Panther I looked at last week, not so gummy. So I don't know what the deal with that is. Double knee works pretty well. And he does have a boot cut with a hinge in the foot and a rocker, as well as peg holes at the bottom of the feet for the stand that you shouldn't need, but if you do, he's got the peg holes. So really cool figure, man. I dig him. It has its flaws. It's the Marvel Legends, it's going to. But one of my tops for the year, at least for this line. I don't know if it's my favorite Legend, but it's up there. Even though I had to mess with this arm something bad. It's pretty bad. Like, pretty freaking bad. So, with that being said, before this drags out longer than it needs to, pop the camera up a little bit. Let's now move on and take a look at some size comparisons. First up, here's our new Retro Series animated Spider-Man alongside the first Retro Series Spider-Man, a more comic book inspired, especially Steve Ditko comic book inspired Spider-Man, the infamous Retro Spidey, as we have all come to know and love him as. Then we also have the only other animated series figure and or character we have received on the retro card, at least going full bore for the animated look. I guess there is Black Cat too, but we of course have the Hasbro PulseCon exclusive Venom featuring the blue and orange cell shading. So to have both Venom and Spider-Man in Legends form based off how they appeared in the 90s animated series, for me, ticks all the boxes. I love the Venom saga from that series, and to be perfectly honest with you, I would be happy if we just had this, but considering the fact that we are getting Carnage, the symbiote costume Spider-Man, and hopefully other characters like Doc Ock and Chameleon, because if I remember correctly, they had very specific looks from that series. It's looking to be a really awesome year for Spider-Man the Animated Series figures. I am very much looking forward to it. And last, but certainly not least, we have our two regulars, the Mythical Agents for the Mandibulus. Live at Spawn, as usual, towers over everyone. And after having these animated Spider-Man figures from the Marvel Legends line, I'd really like Todd Father to give us an animated version of good old Al Simmons as he appeared in the HBO series from way back in the day. Anyone else down for that? I know I am. So with that being said, time to wrap things up with some final thoughts. Overall, and aside from a couple of minor quality control issues with my particular figure, I mean, it's Marvel Legends, it's the name of the game, we all know it, we all deal with it, even after 3 price hikes in 12 months, we probably shouldn't have to. I do still really like this figure, and am super stoked to be getting some Spider-Man the Animated Series love in the Marvel Legends line, especially next year when we start getting the VHS 2-packs. I'm really looking forward to see what Hasbro has to give us as far as offerings from this series are concerned, because they could go all over the place. Like, we could get a Morbius and Blade. Could you imagine that? A Morbius and Blade? We can't even get a Danny Ketch, but dang it all if we don't get an animated Morbius and Blade 2-pack, because that would be really sick. Or how about a Man-Spider, because everyone wants one. And the last Spider-Man comic book Build-A-Figure we got was Armadillo. So, I digress. We need some of these characters just in general, but if we at least get them in this animated series line, and the cell shading isn't too jarring to some, I think we have a really solid year ahead of us as far as Spider-Man fans are concerned. So, with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this review. If you're so inclined, please don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you know whenever I upload more reviews like this one. If you haven't already, please hit me up on Instagram at Overlord Productions. But as always, keep the comments civil, because the world sucks enough as it is, especially when we don't get cool cartoons like Spider-Man the Animated Series anymore. I mean, I've tried to watch new cartoons and they just suck in comparison. And until next time, I'll catch you guys later.